Okay, guys, this is going to be my review of American Ninja Warrior, Season 12, Episode 4, Qualifying Night for the final round of qualifying. I enjoyed it. I think Qualifying 2 and Qualifying 3 were better than this episode, but I enjoyed it. I think it had my second favorite run of the season so far, and Joe Moravsky's Mega Well run, only topped by David Campbell's run 2 weeks ago in Qualifying Night 3. So, but yeah, I think, but this episode shocked me. It shocked me. What shocked me is that they fast forward Matisse. They fast forward the kid, which is shocking because he's like a huge, like when you think of top 5 American Ninja Warrior superstars that you think of in this current era of Ninja Warrior, he's up there, you know. When you just think Ninja Warrior, you're like, okay, you think of about like the top 10, top 5-ish ninjas, and you're like, Matisse is there. On top of Ninja Warrior, just the production-wise, just loves him. Show him. And they fast forward him, and it was so shocking to me. Because this whole episode, they basically ignored him in many ways. Because, like, they have the, like, big, like, they have, like, the whole, this is the big stars tonight, and they're like Tiana Weberly, Michael Torres, you know, and Joe Moravsky, and they're like, but Matisse is in this episode too. And so what's so weird is they're ignoring, because they couldn't put him in the edit for as a full run. They're like, let's just pretend he's not as big of a star as he is, because you go from like, you know, ANW 11 where he's like, Matisse is like the newest star or whatever, and then you're like, then you go to this season and he's just an everyday ninja. They're like, and then the next fast forward ninja, Matisse Awadi, and you're like, and that's his run. And what just odds me is they're like, it's just like with the fact the way they because like there's never been someone they fast forward that's shocking to fast forward Matisse. Because I think it's on the level if they just fast forwarded Daniel Gill. It's on the level of that. Because they're probably right now like on a very similar pedestal. Like imagine they just out of the blue fast forward Daniel Gill. But not only just fast forward him, they're like, these are the, like, they completely ignore him. Because that's kind of what they did with Matisse. They're like, tonight we got to see Joe Moravsky and Michael Torres and Tiana Weberly and Karsten Williams. But then you're like, isn't the kid in this episode? What's crazy so much is he's just one of the most popular ninjas going today. And one of the biggest attractions to this episode. And I got the feeling he would be fast forward because when you just look at, like, you just look at the whole episode leading up to when his fast forward segment, you know, they're like well, what is it, like I said they talk about all these big stars for the episode and they just don't talk about Matisse. They're like, the big names tonight, Tiana Weberly, Joe Moravsky, Karsten Williams, Michael Torres, and they're not like, no Matisse. And then they're like, but then they're like, then when they're like talking about like up next this guy, and even during Michael Torres' run, they're like, don't worry, but there's still other big names like Joe Moravsky. And they're like, but Matisse don't, like, I constantly have to tell myself Matisse is tonight. In the retrospect that he's competing tonight. And you know what another thing is? They kept him away from the marketing of this whole season. Which is odd. It's odd. That they... And I don't know why. Now, I do see... during his fast forward segment, it's only one frame. But on his... you know, kind of... What's it called? I think maybe a big reason why, maybe, I'm just saying, but there's one frame, one shot, I don't even know if it made the edit, but I think it was like a thumbnail for a YouTube video, during Matisse's run, but if you see in the corner of your eye, and very, you know, missable, but in the corner of your eye, you see his virtual audience, his virtual fans, and one of them was Drew. So maybe they're like, hey, we even though you have someone we don't want in your virtual audience, we're cutting you, which is odd because you could have worked around and just not shown the virtual audience at all. But yet again, during some of the obstacles, you would have seen his virtual audience. So I think why they're doing that is because he's Drew's in his virtual audience. Because if you see, they cut him out in the fast forward segment, but there's like a thumbnail on a YouTube video that I watched where it's just Matisse's fast forward run, but the thumbnail you in the corner very missable, but in the corner of eye you could see clearly make out him in the background. So you're like, maybe that honestly, so that's why they're probably cutting him out, because someone on his virtual audience is someone they don't want to see. And I would say don't show the virtual audience, but when he's running across the first obstacle, you're gonna see the virtual audience. That's just fact. When he's running across the shrinking steps, they're gonna see the virtual audience. Or because they might not want to show it, and yes, most people will miss that. But if there's even a frame, because that would be like a big part of the run, would be like a whole frame of Matisse, running, and so I think that's why, is because Drew's on his virtual audience, and I think that's why they're like, hey, we don't want him in the virtual audience, so we're just gonna say, hey, we can't show you, because when you're running through the first audience in the backgrounds of your virtual audience, and one of the people in the virtual audience we don't want to, we're cutting from this season, then we're just gonna have you fast forwarded, which is unfortunate, and I think that's why in the marketing Matisse is not shown. Because when you look at the trailers leading up to the season, you're like, oh, Daniel Gill, Joe Morosky, this is when Matisse gets no real, airtime, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it's not like he did bad, and it's not like he did average. He had one of the fastest times, and that's when it could get frustrating, where it's like, ugh. But another weird thing about his fast forward run is they said he got the third fastest time when he hit the buzzer when there was only Joe Morosky to run. When indeed he got the fourth fastest time. He finished fourth. Wait, no. Or someone. No, he. Well, never mind. What was I saying? Yeah, my point's useless because I forgot about Joe Morosky. I didn't run at the time. Forget it. My point's useless. But again, and that's just to me a very disappointing thing, is because now you practically have to cut out one of your top stars when he didn't do anything wrong. As a matter of fact, he's did extremely great this season, just based on qualifying. You know what I mean? So it's a weird thing. But again, if in the virtual audience that he's there, then they gotta cut him out. So I understand why they did it. It's just feel bad for Matisse because he did great, and in having one of your biggest stars having to be cut out for no other reason than just he had to. So. But, you could tell during his, what's it called? His fast forward. I'm talking about 8 minutes of just Matisse wanting crazy. But you can tell during his fast forward segment that they're like, they really don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Because they're, showing him on, every single obstacle. Because, sometimes fast forward segments, they'll show him complete one obstacle, and then, an obstacle, and then if they finish, get up the wall. But here they're really milking his fast forward segment, because they're like, we're gonna show him on the shrinking steps, and we're gonna show him on, except the honeycombs, or beehive. So other than that, they showed him on every obstacle, and so I think that's kind of, and you know what I think I love about this season, and I really enjoyed last season, and really doing it this season, is they're giving more love to the fast forward segments. You know what I mean? Because before they're like, while you're away, then 3 ninjas got shown. But what I love is they're still fast forward segments, probably more than any other season, but they give more care and more love. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They'll show some of their stories in a fast forward segment, or they'll give again, like I said, just show them on more obstacles. And I think that comes down to them having to fast forward more and more ninjas every season, because I think the courses get slower and slower to complete, and the stories become longer and longer. Because I have some like season 6 and season 7 and season 5 on demand, and I'll watch those seasons and I'll be like, geez, these courses are doable in a minute, but and they're not that difficult, sure, but they can be done quick. And you look at some of these profile pieces in these, and they'll talk about how he's a chef for like a 30 seconds, and that's it. Because I think the best fast forward segments, I think, are the ones that deal with ninja, I guess, or not ninja, but ninja, I guess, related in some capacity, or say a fun fact about the ninja, or give a narrative to the run. Because like John Rosky, they're talking about how he wants to get the Mega Wall, or the Speedo Ninja talking about how he wants to get a buzzer. I'll give the exception to great stories, but I don't just want you to milk something because milk this guy paddleboards. We have to do a whole long segment about that. A great length of a segment was the guy who did marshmallows. That was exciting. That was fun. But they didn't have to do like a 2-minute promo of him. They just did 30 seconds of him catching marshmallows with his mouth. And I'll give the exception to Thomas Stillings and Paulina Avila, because their runs, I think, matter because we get to learn them as I guess human beings instead of as people. But then you have promo things about what they do, and you're like, is this really necessary to have like a full minute segment, type thing? But and you can tell where they had to, because I have a feeling, this is my theory, Matisse was supposed to be in the episode, but they cut him out. That's my theory. He was supposed to get a full run in this episode, but for no reason, no fault of his own, had to get cut. And my theory is that who would have been the substitute? I would say, well, it would have to be something short. I don't know. I think it could have been like they just, I feel like, shoehorned I'm trying to think. You know what? I think it might be Jimmy Choi was just like, he fell in the first obstacle. It felt like they were just showing him because they had time on their hands, because they had to cut out Matisse. It could have been the kayak guy, because it's like you're showing. And by the way, he finished and he was the second runner, which shocked me. It did shock me that they're second runner. And I predicted this was going to be the easiest course of them all, and it was. Megan Martin falling on the 5th obstacle. I saw that coming completely, because Megan Martin is a really good ninja. She is. But what I've noticed of her, what I've noticed about her, is she, I feel like, doesn't adapt to the changing course. Because when she dominated in season 6, season 7, season 8, those were like her dominating years, where she was top dog, she was top ninja, the female ninja. When you look at season 6, my point is that ninja has become more technical. Because you look at that Denver course, everything played to her strengths. Everything was just pure grip strength. Everything was pure climbing. When you look at the cat grab, and you look at, besides the balance obstacles, but the balance obstacles have gotten harder. Balance obstacles have been getting harder too, but yet she's good at balance. Not as good as most, because she's not primarily known as someone good at balance. Primarily known as a rock climber, but she can do balance. But my point is that with Megan Martin, the courses have become more technical, where you look at each year going on and on, it's become more technical. Where you look at, like I said, Denver, where it's like the devil steps, complete, just utter grip strength, utter arm strength, utter climbing strength. You look at Kansas City, bungee road, complete grip, and the monk in the in the in the the and then you look at season 8 in the Indianapolis, and you see like the swinging pike, or you look at you look at the nunchucks in the fifth obstacle, and you just see her being able to um just to dominate on the nunchucks, because again, when there's just a sheer grip obstacle, she can crush it. She can crush it. But when there's anything other than just pure grip, she doesn't do as good. Because again, when you look at where the courses she succeeded on, with the exception of when she did great on stage 1, because now you look at her on stage 1, she's done a lot worse. But anyways, when you look at Megan Martin and truly think about the obstacles she's dominated in, you think of devil steps, you think of bungee road, you think of the monk, you think of the salmon ladder and the wall and the or not even the warp wall, because remember in Indianapolis she took 3 attempts to get up the warp wall in city finals. But again, like I said, you look at these obstacles and she succeeds on just pure grip obstacles, and she's been lucky enough that for her first 3 seasons she has been on just great pure grip obstacles. But as soon as she gets on an obstacle on a course more technical, she falls on Rail Runner. And again, the grip part of Rail Runner, she dominated it. But when it becomes technical, keeping the Rail Runner centered, that's where she falls. Season 8, the battering ram, it's slippery. It becomes more than grip, and it becomes more in the sense that you had to, make sure, keep it from not spinning. Then you get into, and she can't make the transition because she missed with her hand. And then you look at, what's its face? Tacoma. And you're like, what's needed there is technique, not going too hard. And what she did wrong, she just didn't have the technique of putting the bar through cradle to cradle. And so her problem is she's a good ninja, but she doesn't have the great, I guess, technical experience, that great sheer grip experience that I think is needed. You know what I mean? Where she's good, but then you look at this course, she has the grip, she just technically, she fails technically. On a technical standpoint, she can't make the jump. On a technical standpoint, she misses the battering ram. And so it's not the grip, it's that I think it's the idea of just sheer obstacles. You know what I mean? The sheer technicality of the different obstacles. But anyways, great to see Maddie Howard totally telegraph that she finished. She was like, because when they had the whole promo for Run, they're like all about Maddie. It was like literally 30 seconds just about Maddie Howard. And they showed her on the end of the 5th obstacle, which is weird. I hate when Ninja Warrior in their promo shows a competitor at like the 5th obstacle. Or at like, because practically the promo showed Maddie on like the honeycombs, sorry, not the honeycombs, the beehive, and they showed her completing the spin bridge, and that to me is just like, because when you show someone practically completing nearly the whole course, then you're basically spoiling a run without you even having to show most of the obstacle. You're just, hey, here's the results. But she was great, and she went fast. I mean, like, she did finish in like the 2 minutes. She wouldn't have finished in the top. She didn't finish in the top 12. Obviously, she's moving on in the top 3 for women. But fast considering how other women have done. And when you start to think about it, these women have gotten faster with the course as well. You look at like Jessie Lebrecht's one; she went fast, like not just female, just fast, male or female, you know. So these ninjas have been getting fast, and she was fast, and Tiana Webb was great. I think for me, Tiana Webb really Maddie Howard's runs are great. I think honestly, in many ways, you could say that Tiana's was more satisfying because that buzzer was such a long time coming for her. You know, you go back to all these seasons, you're like, she gets finger. Yes, she's made it up the wall. Yes, she's made it past her nemesis, the fifth obstacle. But it's one thing getting up the wall. It's one thing making past the fifth obstacle. But it's another thing of getting a buzzer and knowing in this course you will not get wet. In this course, you will not fail an obstacle, and that feeling is always great. You know, just great. So that was great on her. And other notable fast forwards: Kevin Bull, Lance Picas, and I think this was just a sheer fault of so many big names, and they all do great. I think that's what it came down to. It's like you're gonna tell me and Lance Picas's finish, and Kevin Bull's finish, but I feel like what kind of frustrates me a little bit is there's runs that I don't think I'd rat. There's runs that I don't think need to necessarily be there, and I'd rather prefer other ninjas. Like I feel like you could have had Lance Picas. I love Kyle Schulze. He's great, but you could have had Lance Picas, who in the same amount of time Kyle's run was on, finished. You know, because he finished pretty quickly, and you know, and so that stuff. But then you could have shown Kevin Bull. I mean, Kevin Bull finished slower than Lance Picas, but you could have shown him, or you don't have to get rid of Kyle Schulze. But I think like the first finisher, do I buy that he never been on a ninja course before? I think he said like he went in Brian Kretsch's gym like once, and then he was like, oh, he's a natural athleticism. And, do I believe he's only been in like a ninja gym once at all? I don't know about that. Because I think some of the, you know what I think it is? I just think, and maybe that's true, because when you look at the course, it doesn't take a lot of everything, you know what I mean? It doesn't take pure technique, it doesn't take pure grip, and it doesn't take pure parkour balance. Because when you think yes, because when and the most technical it gets is with kind of the second and fifth obstacle, but both of them, if you have the right rhythm, you can get it, you know, pretty down easy. But at the same time, like, you're telling me he what I also don't get is the warp wall. Like a warp wall takes technique, and you can't just stand across the warp wall and just be able to get it, you know. But maybe that's true. Maybe you can. But like the fifth obstacle is interesting because like that you have to be so precise. I don't know. And maybe he was in there for hours on that one time he went to the gym, and maybe he has natural athleticism. So I don't know. Like I said, Joe Morosky's run great. Michael Torres, I personally wanted. It's tricky because the Will guy, Will Schlagler, whatever, the guy who like watched his father compete and stuff. I guess I can relate to that, like a ninja fan who's wanted to compete and stuff. I could sort of relate to that, I guess, a little bit. And you could tell he was frustrated with his fail. And you could tell he could have done better. You could tell that, and he knew like ahead of time as he missed. He was like, damn it, type thing. So it's kind of, but I wanted Michael to win the Power Tower just because I saw how much Jimmy Trey wanted it, and I know how much Kyle wanted it. But at the same time, you're like giving these two super fans another shot. I don't know, because it's like I'm most likely that Will guy, and being brought along with a legend like Joe Morosky. I don't know. As I guess as on a relatable side, you'd be like Team Joe. As a fan of the ninjas, I want Team Joe to win. I like Joe more than Michael. I can relate to Will over all the other ninjas. But I don't know, especially because Michael, they showed that touching scene of Michael and Kyle going up to Jimmy and cheering him up after he fell, and so I guess, I don't know. But Joe came out on top, and definitely best performance overall in in uh, in uh, in St. Louis in qualifying night 4. Some great runs. Tiana Weberly, Michael Torres, Matty Howard, Joe Morofsky, and also shockingly by Carson Williams. Poof. What just surprised me the most is the biggest runs are people, like the big runs are Michael Torres, Joe Morofsky, Tiana Weberly, and Matty Howard, when there were so many other top ninjas who are even more elite than all these ninjas. And because when you think of like, you know, this is the same episode with Matisse and Lance Picas and Kevin Miller. Like, it's crazy that these are the group that get shown. But the more I think about the Matisse situation, the more I realize it's because Drew's in the virtual audience, because they couldn't avoid that. You know what I mean? Because no matter way the cookie shapes, is because the thing is that it's not like you even have to make awareness to his virtual audience. I feel like the biggest thing you would have to do is when they show him on the shrinking steps, in the background you can see the virtual audience. So it's a slippery slope no matter what. But it just makes this episode awkward, because you could tell like they literally, because what's weird is the Matisse situation is interesting because they still want to market Matisse, yet they fast forward him, and it's very shocking. Probably the most shocking fast forward that I've ever seen in Ninja Warrior, because it felt like so unnatural. It felt like they didn't even want it to happen. It felt like you're taking the biggest star and just saying, "Hey, we're not showing him." You know what I mean? The Drew situation is different because they cut him out completely as if he never competed. That's fine. That's okay. That's great. But the Matisse situation is because they still want to shine light on Matisse. He's a great ninja, but yet without being able to show him, which sucks. Which sucks. Which brings me to an interesting question: if he did make it up the Mega Wall and he did make it to the Power Tower, then I feel like you would be in some ways forced to show him. I feel like I don't know. I feel like if they really had to show Matisse, if he did extremely well, they would have probably found a way to show him. But another thing is, did they have an angle like they can show him? Maybe there's other angles, but they just couldn't work them out. I don't know. That's always been interesting to me. So I don't know. But because yeah, like I said, it always got that feeling as you take away the big. You have a slew of top competitors, and you have to take away one of them. Yet fast forward them. Yet still want to market that. It's just such a weird case study, because it's like, it's not like you're completely cutting them out from the season. You still show them, just in a weird, awkward way that feels forced, because it honestly was forced in many ways. So, very weird. And then that's different from Joe Morofsky getting fast forward in Vegas in season 11, because the only time Joe Morofsky's got fast forward, besides I believe his qualifying run in Baltimore, was in season 11 in Vegas. But I think honestly it wasn't, at the time, season 11, Joe was not the biggest star in terms of that season, because he was always a big name. But I feel like, big ninjas go through, the top ninjas go through different phases of being on top. You know what I mean? Where there's one season where Kevin Bull's on top, and then another season he just gets fast forward. And another season, this ninja's on top. Next season he gets fast forward. Because it depends on how you do. You know what I mean? So it's like, in the case of Joe Morofsky, season 11 was just not his best year. And he was not like one of those, and he only got fast forward that one time. But at the same time, it's not like he was the biggest star competing. there was other stars. There was Matisse, like I said, like we just talked about, and all these stars, and Grant, and Ethan, and Jesse Graff, and so there was other stars, other top ninjas, that it never felt like a huge loss. It was shocking because it's Stromanovsky, and he never really gets fast forward. But it wasn't as a shock because it was like, okay, you did average, you finished, great, and yeah. But when you look at the case of Matisse, he's like the poster boy for the next generation of ninjas, and forced, because it's not like, oh yeah, we can't show Matisse. Matisse is a huge star, and ANW loves him. They'll find a way to show Matisse if they had the option. They were forced into a hand where, unfortunately, buddy, Matisse couldn't get shown. But that I'll still remember. Honestly, Matisse getting fast forward will always be the thing I remember about this episode. But it was still great. I still really enjoyed it and made for some interesting television. Stay tuned for more videos coming right at you.